Hi, welcome to TheiaCon 2022. I'm super excited to have you all here. We're looking forward to a great event. We have over 300 registrations from all around the globe. So really glad to have you here and welcome. I would like to thank the Eclipse Cloud Development Tools Working Group and the Eclipse Foundation hosting this event. And we're looking forward to a great agenda. I will mention some details about that in a second. I have to mention something that just happened. So literally, I mean, the beauty of these online events is that nobody has to stand up from their desk, and many people are apparently still in home office, which applies to me too. But literally 10 minutes before the event, my wired internet connection completely broke down, and I hear some workers on the street out there. It's probably connected to that. So I'm now connected over 5G. We have some companies today giving talks that develop on the standard, and I hope it works fine. Currently, it looks okay, but bear with me. Hopefully, we don't run into connection problem. But at the moment, it looks fine. All right. So about the agenda today, I will start with the first talk, an update about Theia, what happened over 1 year, and then we have a couple of very interesting topics. Some of them marked in gray are 30 minutes, and then we have talks about smaller topics, and they basically present what they did in a very short talk. We will have a break around 5:15 Central Europe time or 11:15 Eastern time. We try to select the whole schedule or design the whole schedule that is compatible with as many time zones as possible, so people from all around the globe can join, and we can see in the registration that that worked well. And without further ado, remember we have a second day tomorrow with a also very interesting schedule, also a break in the middle, so make sure you join there as well. We close the day today with a panel, so there will be an online discussion and you will be able to ask questions there. And finally, I would like to ask you, there is currently a developer survey going on, also organized by the Eclipse Cloud Developer Tools Working Group. And we kindly ask you to join there and tell us your opinion and your thoughts. And the link will be displayed during the breaks. All right, enough of an intro. Let's talk about Theia with the first talk given by me. I'm Jonas, by the way. I work for EclipseSource. We are a company that is focused on building tools and IDEs for our customers. And a lot of these tools are web-based. And out of these web-based tools, obviously a lot of the projects use Theia as a platform. And today I'm speaking here in my role as one of the Theia project leads. And what I would like to do is basically provide you an overview of the last year since the last TheiaCon, what happened in the Theia project, what is noteworthy, what will you potentially be interested in. Already disclaimer, a lot of things happened during the last year, so I will not be able to mention everything. I had to select some things, so bear with me. In case you develop something and I don't mention it, it's not that it's not important, but it just didn't have enough room in the presentation. All right, I would like to start with three features, so three user visible things that Theia added during the last year. I would like to start with a toolbar, which is a very, very cool feature. So what that means is if you build a tool or an IDE based on Theia, you can activate a toolbar and make that part of your product too. And there are actually products out there that have had a toolbar even before Theia supported that, for example, the Arduino IDE, but now it's natively supported by Theia. And as we can see here in the screencast, it's actually user configurable. So what we see here currently is adding a new action. So you can select an arbitrary command, and then you can select an icon for that and just place it in the toolbar, which is pretty new for users because they can just add things that they recurrently want to do, like, for example, a rebuild to the toolbar. We see it here in the beginning. So click the toolbar and just say add command. Then we just select the command we want to add. And then subsequently, we can select a icon for that. And we can move things around in the toolbar. So it's very or highly configurable and really, really a cool feature. Interestingly, not a lot of tools in our days support toolbars anymore, although many users like that because it's just very easy access to features. The next feature, which we are super excited about, is detachable views. For this, I actually would like to share another window, which shows a quick screencast of that. So what does that mean? Detachable windows is actually the ability to move certain views from the core Theia windows, for example, here the terminal. So we open a new terminal, and now we can click this button and basically detach that to a new window that we can now drag around. So we could move that to a second monitor or to some other place on your screen, which is really, really useful to use the screen state that developers typically have. So many people have 2 or more monitors, but without detachable views, you cannot really use them. Again, it's a feature that was supported by most desktop tools, but that kind of got lost when migrating to web-based technologies. Now we add this to Theia again. It's currently supported for web views and the terminal. But you can also decide to support that for your own custom views wherever it makes sense. All right, so let me go back to the slides. All right. And the third feature that I would like to mention that was already available before, but it has been added to core Theia in August this year, is the support memory inspector and disassembly views. And that's very useful, especially in the area of embedded or C++ development. It's a very powerful memory inspector that allows you to inspect the current values in the memory directly during a debug session. So what we see here is a debug session. So we hit a breakpoint. Now we open the memory viewer, which shows us the current state of the memory, essentially. So, and you can expect that very much in detail. This memory view is really powerful. So there different adopters have evaluated against other solutions, and it's potentially one of the best solution out there. It has also very advanced features, like, for example, you can diff the memory between two different states. Like you can say, okay, before this command and after this, I want to see the difference in the memory, and a lot more. So definitely have a look if you're interested in memory inspection. All right, enough of user visible features. There are much more that I could mention, but I had to pick something. So these were my top 3 ones. But Theia as a platform is also always targeting adopters, meaning people that build their own tools based on Theia. And we also improved a lot in that area. And I would like to mention 3 examples there too. So let's talk about improvements that are specifically for adopters of Theia as a platform. First, we worked a lot on the performance specifically for file access. So this the use case here is if you open big files in Theia, which can take some time because they actually have to be transferred over the wire. And we factored a lot the network communication, the RPC communication there. And the cool result here is that in the new version, Theia is up to 10 times faster for big files, which is really one order of magnitude. So you really, really feel the difference there. It's currently already merged for Theia extensions, and probably with the next release, we also support that for VS Code extensions. So definitely watch out for this. Second thing, we improved the CLI used to build Theia, specifically in the area of dependency management. And there, one huge improvement is to the support for hoisting, meaning if you adopt Theia and you have a lot of extensions or own plugins that depend on Theia, and you want to update into a new Theia version, we provide support for that. Specifically, we also allow you to validate that all your code depends on the same Theia version, because you typically don't want to have dependency to different Theia versions that can lead to misconfiguration. And since August, the CLI supports you with that, so it makes your life easier when adopting Theia. And the third thing that I selected in this area is the playwright support. So how does Theia need to support playwright? Because you can actually you could have used playwright before, but what Theia provides is what we call a page object model. And that's an API that is in between the playwright test and the Theia workbench. So if you write playwright test, you have to interact with user visible elements, and you have to identify them somehow. And then you have to implement some wait conditions. For example, you click a button and then you wait for a dialog to open. And for the standard UI elements of Theia, these identification, clicking, and waiting conditions are basically always the same. So what we provide you is an abstraction of that. So instead of identifying, okay, here's the project explorer, and now I identify the node to click to open a file, you can just write in a playwright test, okay, open file, and the page object model would translate that to concrete DOM elements. The nice thing about this is tests get much more robust, because if something changes in the UI, we only have to adapt the page object model, but not all tests, essentially. And also the tests run more reliable because all the conditions are actually already covered. Just to give you some impression how this looks like. So what we see here is the playwright test programmed against the page object model. And as you can see, the tests get also very understandable. It's actually easier to write and to read them. So here, for example, we open a new Theia workspace with a certain location. We start the app, and then we just open an editor. Basically, we open a file called sample.txt with a default text editor, and then even the text editor has some page object models. So we replace a line here, and then we can verify or validate that the line has correctly been replaced. So very easy to write test cases with this page object model. Related to this, we also created what we call a community test suite. That was actually reported, or the need was reported by some adopters. A lot of adopters have their own end-to-end test suite to test new Theia versions, whether something has changed that would lead to a regression in their adopting product. And now we allow you to, if you want, you can publish these tests on the Theia infrastructure, and they get executed on the Theia infrastructure against every new build already on a nightly basis, which allows you to identify early if something in Theia gets changed that might lead to a regression in your product. And then you can already report that and potentially contribute to a fix or understand what has changed in a very early phase. So you don't have to wait until everything is released. But you can basically even add your specific test cases there as long as you can make them public. So kind of invite you, if you have this use case, join this effort and basically just publish your test there, that things that you want to validate in a new Theia version. All right, there are other news around Theia too. Big topic this year has been the VS Code extension support. So as you might know, Theia allows you to host VS Code extensions, which is super great because we can, if you build a tool or use a tool based on Theia, you can use this huge ecosystem of VS Code extensions available on, for example, the OpenVSX marketplace to add features to your tool. For example, language support, linting, and so on and so forth. This is possible because Theia provides the same API as VS Code does, but on the Theia side, we basically have to implement that whenever VS Code adds something new. We follow that on a continuous basis, and we have a compatibility report where you can see exactly what's supported and what not. On the right side, we see the percentage of non-supported VS Code API members over a year. We see it has been pretty constant in the beginning. Then VS Code actually added a lot of feature in the summer. But with the joint effort of the community, we were able, especially in the last 3 releases, to come down to almost, it's even lower now, to almost 5% of non-supported calls. So the lower, the better, which is really great. We are close to be fully compatible with VS Code 1.64, which is a pretty recent version, only less than half a year old. And what we also do is we test popular extensions against our API to make sure that they are supported with the latest version. It's worth mentioning that some of these API calls in the 5% area are not really super important because they're very seldomly used by any extensions at all. So we probably not be lower than 5% at any time, but the important thing is that the extensions that you want to use are actually supported by Theia. Another huge initiative has been documentation. That has been reported a lot in the past, that adopters want more documentation. There has been a lot of effort in that area, thanks to contributions like, for example, from ST Microelectronics and others. And we're now, this is actually measured by the Open Hub portal, we have now well-documented source code. There are now 10 times more documentation available on the website, like high-level documentation about the concept in Theia. And we have a community-driven migration guide. And that's a living document where we document any steps that you need to do when upgrading to a new Theia version. And we actually invite and encourage any adopters to contribute to that, to share their experience, that other people can look at this too. And we have monthly release blogs documenting all the most important changes and features. We have a new resource section on the website collecting articles and videos. And we have a very active user forum where a lot of questions are asked and answered. And a lot of people contribute to this. I have to mention Vince because he's our top contributor to this forum. So thank you very much for your effort, but also, of course, all others that continuously contribute to this user forum. Another thing that we introduced very recently in September is what we call the community release. So you might know Theia follows a monthly release schedule since the beginning of the project, which is great because it allows us to publish changes very fast and really drive innovation. However, it was reported by adopters that for some projects, it is actually too much overhead to adopt every new release every month, especially if projects are more in the deployment phase. They only want to adopt, I don't know, every third or fourth release. But the situation then is that every adopter is basically on another release and they just skip a few and there was no synchronization. Now, the idea of the community release is to provide an anchor for exactly these projects. So we only publish a community release every 3 months based on the same sources, of course. And it has a couple of special attributes. So the first one is we publish a release candidate for the community release 1 month ahead. So adopters can already test a new release and potentially we can fix something before it gets final. Second, we directly create a maintenance branch. And this branch is kept alive until the next community release is published. So this can be used for hot fixes by contributors. And it has been already in the past. So the first community release in September, there was a fix between the release candidate and the final release. And now after the release has been published, there was already a security fix on the existing release on this maintenance branch. And finally, there are quite a few technologies that provide integrations with Theia, like, for example, Eclipse GLSP, Sprotty, EMF Cloud, Trace Compass, CDT Cloud. And those projects can now choose to use the community release to ensure and check their compatibility, that everything works correctly. And what they can do is they can then publish a version that has been tested with a community release on the community release website. So if you adopt a community release, you can be sure or pretty sure that all these technologies, if you use the same version as communicated here, everything works together well. So in a nutshell, this is kind of the first step towards a release train that we know from Eclipse Classic on the desktop, with a faster schedule at the moment and a little bit more lightweight, but we try to address the needs of the adopters in a pragmatic way with this. I would like to mention Blueprint. That was already available last year. It's, in a nutshell, it's a tool based on Theia, because Theia as a platform doesn't really serve the purpose of something that you can directly download and use. But with Blueprint, we actually created a vanilla default template tool that is based on Theia. Can be used. You can use it. You can use it to evaluate Theia. And we provide documentation how to use Theia Blueprint as a basis to build your own tool. So it comes with an installer, and you can basically look at how it is done to create your own tool then based on this template. So as mentioned, you can download an installer to install it on the desktop. But what's new here is we also have an online version of Theia Blueprint now on the website. So that's this Try Online button. And this is actually hosted with Theia Cloud. That's a hosting frame allowing you to host Theia workspaces online in the cloud and then access them via the browser. So if you click this button, you can basically just try Theia Blueprint for 30 minutes online. There will be a talk about Theia Cloud later today given by Maximilian if you're interested in hosting Theia applications online. Another new project that I already mentioned is CDT Cloud. It's not strictly speaking Theia, but it builds on Theia. And it's another, or it's actually a project that is focused on C++ development and embedded development. There will be a talk about this project tomorrow because it's highly related to Theia. So if you're interested in that, make sure you join that session tomorrow. Let's quickly look at the project health. So we are happy about a very constant and very active community. We have, according again to Open Hub, a very large active developer team, very stable commit activity, around 110 active contributors over the last 12 months, and a lot of different companies contributing to Theia, so a very diverse ecosystem. What also makes us pretty happy is that we get new logos on the website from contributors and adopters very continuously. If you're not in this list, make sure you add yourself. So you can just open an issue, attach your logo, and you will be listed on the website in case you contribute to Theia or in case you adopt Theia. And finally, I would like to mention another event that happens in 2 weeks from now. On December the 14th, we will host a hackathon, the second hackathon for Theia, an event where some experienced Theia developers will guide you through your first contributions to Theia. So definitely, if you're interested in contributing to Theia, join there. The registration link is on the Theia website, and we will guide you through your first contribution to Theia. All right, and final slide. What am I, or what are we looking forward to? What is a potential update next year? So definitely we will continue to work on the VS Code extension support, because that's a very important feature reported by adopters. We probably will also improve on the secondary Windows support, and we are currently, before Christmas, usually in a discussion what should be the focus next year. We are also, for example, collecting ideas about how we can improve the code bases to ensure long-term maintenance and so on. So watch out, and let's meet together next year and see what we have achieved in another year of Theia development. All right, and with that, I would like to look at the questions. There are already a couple of questions. Yeah, so there's one question from Patrick Nandov, Jupyter support. So currently, this is not planned. We are basically waiting for an interested party to implement that. There's no technical reason to not do that, but currently we don't see a specific party actually initiating this effort to support that. I got a 2 minutes warning. Anyway, we can get the chart written on page 9 published. Yes, it's actually already public. I can share the slides. Actually did a local analysis. And the final question was, does Theia offer facilities for using web and node worker threads? So that's a topic we're currently investigating, but there's no native default support for that. And with that, I think I am close to my limit. I thank you very much for attending this session. I'm looking forward to the next session, and see you later in the panel.